Long ago, in a quiet village nestled between rolling hills and dense forests, the people lived simple lives, tending their fields and caring for their animals. Yet, despite their peaceful existence, the village was frequently battered by fierce storms. Each season, dark clouds would gather, and howling winds would tear through the trees, sending rain pounding against the thatched roofs. The villagers would rush to secure their homes and protect their crops, but year after year, the storms left behind destruction and despair. The villagers grew weary, their spirits worn thin by the relentless fury of nature. They wondered if there was any way to withstand the storms without losing everything they had worked so hard to build. One evening, as the sky darkened with an approaching tempest, the village elder gathered the people beneath the shelter of the great oak tree in the village square. His face was weathered by time, and his eyes glimmered with quiet wisdom. "My friends," the elder began, his voice steady but warm, "I know how heavy the burden of these storms weighs upon us all, but I wish to share with you a story, one that may help us find strength in the face of our troubles. It is the story of the bamboo." The villagers leaned in closer, curiosity stirring among them. The bamboo was a common sight in the nearby groves, tall and slender stalks swaying gently in the breeze. But few had truly considered its nature beyond its simple beauty. The elder continued, "Long ago, I heard from a master who traveled to distant lands about the bamboo's remarkable power. When fierce storms strike, the mighty oak trees may snap and fall, their branches breaking under the weight of the wind. But the bamboo? It bends, it sways, and yet it never breaks. It yields to the storm's force, allowing the wind to pass through its leaves and stems. When the skies clear and the sun returns, the bamboo stands tall once more, unharmed and ready to grow." A murmur spread through the crowd. Some villagers nodded thoughtfully, while others furrowed their brows, skeptical of such a simple lesson. The elder raised his hand to quiet them. "This is why I propose a challenge to our village. Let us learn from the bamboo, not by resisting the storms with stubbornness, but by adapting and bending with the hardships life sends our way. Let us show that true strength lies not in unyielding force, but in resilience and flexibility." A young woman, her hands roughened by years of work in the fields, spoke up hesitantly. "But elder, how can bending help us protect our homes? If we give in to the storm, won't it destroy everything anyway?" The elder smiled gently. "Ah, that is the doubt many hold. But consider this, when we resist blindly we risk breaking. When we learn to bend we preserve ourselves and our homes. This challenge is not merely about surviving the storm outside, but about how we face life storms within. It will take courage and patience, but I believe we can do it together." A few younger men exchanged glances, their eyes alight with the spark of hope. One of them, a farmer named Jiro, stepped forward. "I will take on this challenge, elder. If the bamboo can teach us to endure, then I will watch and learn." Others murmured assent, and soon a small group gathered around the elder, eager to understand more. Over the following days, the elder spoke often of the bamboo's qualities, its ability to absorb the storm's force by yielding, its deep roots anchoring it firmly in the earth, and its grace under pressure. He encouraged the villagers to observe the bamboo groves during the next storm, to see the lesson for themselves. Some villagers prepared their homes differently, reinforcing walls yet allowing for some give in their structures. Others practiced patience and calm, reminding themselves not to panic when the wind howled. But not all were convinced. A few old farmers scoffed, saying, "We have always fought the storms head-on. What good is bending if it means giving up?" Despite the skepticism, the elder remained patient. He knew that change is never easy, especially when fear and tradition hold strong. Still, the seed of a new way of thinking had been planted. As the days passed, the villagers' excitement grew, mingled with uncertainty. Some wondered if such a simple lesson could truly help them face the hardships that had long plagued their lives. Others, inspired by the elder's words, began to reconsider their approach to the storms and the struggles beyond. One evening, as the sun dipped low and painted the sky in shades of orange and purple, the elder gathered the villagers once more. "Soon the next storm will arrive," he said. "I ask each of you to watch closely the bamboo and to remember its strength. Let us prepare not only our homes but our hearts, so that when the winds come, we may bend like the bamboo and not break." The villagers nodded solemnly, a mixture of hope and apprehension stirring within them. The elders' challenge had awakened something new. A chance to face their fears differently, to find resilience not in force but in flexibility. That night, as the first drops of rain began to fall, the village settled into a tense quiet. The winds whispered through the bamboo groves, and the villagers whispered to themselves, "We must learn to bend, not break." And so, beneath the gathering storm, the village waited, poised on the brink of a lesson that would test their spirits and change the way they faced the storms to come. The night deepened and the village lay beneath a heavy sky, thick with clouds swollen with rain. Soon the first gusts of wind stirred the branches, carrying an ominous howl that swept through the narrow streets and over the rooftops. The storm was coming, fierce and relentless, just as the elder had foretold. Inside their homes, the villagers sat by flickering lanterns, listening to the rising roar of the gale. Some clutched their belongings tightly, their knuckles white with fear, while others exchanged anxious glances, unsure of what to expect. The elder had asked them to watch the bamboo groves during the storm and to reflect on the lesson they had been given. Outside, the bamboo stalks bowed and swayed as the wind whipped through their slender forms. They bent low, their leaves rustling softly despite the fury around them. The storm unleashed torrents of rain, drumming on the rooftops and turning the dirt paths into rushing streams. Thunder cracked overhead, shaking the village to its core. In the center of the village square, a group of villagers gathered, eyes fixed on the bamboo grove beyond the trees. Among them was Jiro, the young farmer who had accepted the elder's challenge. His heart pounded, but he stood steady, determined to learn from the plants that bent but never broke. As the storm intensified, panic began to spread among some villagers. They rushed about, grabbing whatever they could, frantically trying to hold on to their possessions. One man, a blacksmith named Koji, shouted, "Hold fast! Don't let go of anything. If we lose these tools, we lose our livelihood." His voice trembled with desperation. Others, caught in the throng, struggled to secure their homes, nailing boards over windows and reinforcing doors. But their efforts were hurried and fearful. They fought against the wind, planting themselves stubbornly in place, as though sheer will could stop the storm's wrath. Meanwhile, a few villagers remained by the bamboo grove, watching carefully as the stalks bent low and curved gracefully with the wind's pressure. They saw how the bamboo's flexibility allowed it to yield without snapping, absorbing the storm's force rather than resisting it outright. The sight was almost hypnotic. The bamboo's dance with the tempest was both delicate and strong. Among these observers was Hannah, a quiet woman known for her calm demeanor. She whispered to those near her, "See how the bamboo moves with the wind, not against it. Perhaps if we learn to do the same, we will weather this night with less loss." But not all were convinced. Some shook their heads, muttering that yielding was weakness, that only by standing firm could they protect what was theirs. Fear clutched at their hearts too tightly to see another way. As the storm raged on, the village was a swirl of chaos and calm. Some villagers fought the wind with all their might, holding on to their belongings and bracing against the gusts. Others, inspired by the bamboo's example, shifted their approach. Instead of resisting blindly, they moved with the storm, adjusting their actions to the changing conditions. One family, the Yamadas, had reinforced their home with flexible supports, allowing the walls to sway slightly rather than remain rigid. As the wind howled outside, their house creaked but held firm. The children inside huddled together, comforted by their parents' steady presence. In contrast, the home of old Masaru, who refused to accept the elder's lesson, suffered badly. His wooden door was ripped from its hinges, and part of his roof was torn away. Masaru, shaken and bruised, could only watch as his possessions were scattered by the storm. Throughout the night, the villagers who embraced the bamboo's lesson found themselves less overwhelmed by fear. They supported one another, offering hands to steady those who faltered and sharing what little they had prepared. The storm was no longer an enemy to battle with brute strength, but a force to be respected and understood. Jiro moved through the village, helping neighbors secure their homes with patience and care. When a young mother struggled to hold down a tarp, he gently took the material from her hands and tied it securely, speaking softly, "Let the wind guide us but not break us." By midnight, the storm's fury reached its peak. The wind whipped through the village like a wild beast, tearing at trees and sending debris flying. Rain lashed the earth, flooding paths and filling ditches. The villagers huddled in their homes, hearts pounding, waiting for the worst to pass. Outside, the bamboo grove swayed as one, a sea of green bending and bowing in the tempest's grip. Its resilience was a quiet promise. No matter how strong the storm, it would not be broken. Some villagers, however, could no longer hold back their despair. A few cried out in frustration, overwhelmed by the storm's power and the seeming futility of their efforts. They questioned whether the elder's lesson was enough to protect them. Hannah, standing near the grove, raised her voice above the howling wind. "Remember the bamboo," she called. "We must bend, not break. This storm will pass, and we will stand again." Her words kindled a spark of hope in those nearby. Slowly, the panic began to subside. The villagers who had been fighting the storm with rigid resistance began to soften, adjusting their grip and actions to better withstand the tempest's force. As the hours wore on, the storm's intensity gradually lessened. The wind slowed from a furious gale to a steady breeze, and the rain softened to a gentle patter. The first light of dawn crept over the horizon, casting a pale glow over the drenched village. When the villagers emerged from their homes, they found the damage to be uneven. Houses that had been prepared with flexibility and patience stood with only minor scars. Others, stubborn in their resistance, bore the brunt of the storm's destruction. Collapsed roofs, broken fences, and scattered belongings. Masaru, surveying the wreckage of his home, sighed deeply. He approached the elder, his face lined with regret. "Perhaps," he admitted quietly, "there is wisdom in bending with the storm." The elder nodded gently. "It is not weakness to bend. It is strength to adapt." Jiro and Hannah moved among their neighbors, offering help and encouragement. Though the storm had tested them all, those who embraced the lesson of the bamboo had endured with less loss, their resilience a testament to the power of flexibility. As the village began the slow work of repair and recovery, the people carried with them a new understanding. The storms would come again, as they always did, but now they knew that by bending with the wind, rather than fighting against it, they could survive and grow stronger. And so, beneath the clearing skies, the village stood ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead, learning to move with life's storms just as the bamboo moved with the wind. As dawn stretched its pale fingers across the sky, the village stirred from its uneasy rest. The storm had passed, leaving behind a landscape soaked and battered but alive. The bamboo groves, once again standing tall and graceful, whispered softly in the morning breeze, their slender stalks swaying gently as if to remind the villagers of the night's silent lesson. The elder called the people to gather once more in the village square beneath the great oak tree. Faces marked by fatigue and worry now carried a renewed glimmer of hope. Some bore bruises or wounds from the storm's fury, while others counted the cost of broken fences and scattered crops. Yet, amidst the signs of hardship, there was a quiet resilience that had taken root. "My friends," the elder began, his voice steady and warm, "last night tested us as never before. The storm was fierce, but we have seen the difference in how we faced it. Some of our homes have weathered the winds with little harm, while others have suffered more. This is the result of how we chose to meet the storm." He paused, letting his words settle among the villagers. Those who embraced the lesson of the bamboo bent with the wind, adapting and yielding without breaking. They moved with the storm, not against it. Their flexibility protected their homes and their hearts. On the other hand, those who resisted stubbornly found themselves broken and battered. Jiro stepped forward, his clothes still damp from the night's rain. "I saw it clearly," he said. "When we tried to hold tight and resist, the wind only grew stronger in its assault. But when we loosened our grip and adjusted to its force, we preserved what mattered most." Hannah nodded in agreement. "And beyond the storm itself, we supported one another. We shared strength when it faltered, and patience when fear threatened to overwhelm. Like the bamboo's deep roots, our bonds held us firmly together." The elder smiled gently. "Indeed, the bamboo's strength is not in its hardness, but in its flexibility and deep roots. It bends so it does not break. It yields so it may endure. This is the true nature of resilience." Among the listeners, Masaru, the old farmer who had suffered greatly, stepped forward with a humbled expression. "I admit I was wrong to resist so fiercely. I thought standing firm was the way to protect my home and family, but I see now that stubbornness only led to greater loss. I will learn to bend as the bamboo does." Others murmured their agreement, the lesson taking deeper hold with each confession. The elder nodded approvingly. Let this be a turning point. Resilience is not stubbornness. It is the wisdom to bend when necessary, the courage to adapt, and the patience to endure. Life storms will come, often with little warning, but we can choose how we face them. He gestured toward the bamboo grove, where the stalks stood upright, fresh and green after the rain. Look to the bamboo, my friends. It does not fight the wind. It does not resist the storm. Instead, it moves with grace and strength, anchored by roots that hold firm beneath the earth. So too must we be flexible in our ways, yet grounded in our values and community. The villagers began sharing stories of how they had endured the storm. Some spoke of moments when fear nearly overwhelmed them, only to be soothed by a neighbor's calm words. Others told of how altering their preparations, allowing for movement rather than rigidity, had spared their homes from ruin. A young mother, cradling her child, spoke softly. My heart trembled as the wind screamed outside, but I remembered the elder's words. I helped my family hold on, but also to stay calm and move with the storm's rhythm. It saved us. The elder's eyes shone with pride. This is resilience, born not of force, but of understanding and compassion. When we support one another, we are like the bamboo grove, each stalk flexible alone, but together forming a strong, living barrier against the storm. Jiro added, I have begun to see challenges in a new light. Instead of fighting them head-on, I look for ways to adjust, to find balance. It is not always easy, but it feels stronger than resistance. Hannah smiled. And even when the storms come again, as they surely will, we are better prepared. Not only in our homes but in our hearts and minds. The elder nodded solemnly. Remember, true strength is not in rigid defiance, but in the ability to bend without breaking. When we cultivate resilience and adaptability, we transform hardship into growth. As the village set about repairing damage and restoring their fields, the spirit of the bamboo's lesson lived on. Neighbors helped each other rebuild fences and share resources, patience replacing frustration, and understanding replacing blame. The storm had tested them, but it had also taught them. The old oak tree, under which they gathered, seemed to stand a little taller, its branches reaching toward the sky as if acknowledging the village's newfound strength. The bamboo in the grove whispered in the breeze, a living symbol of endurance and grace. The villagers learned that resilience is not a single act but a way of being. Flexible yet grounded, patient yet persistent. Like the bamboo swaying in the storm, they would face life's inevitable challenges with a quiet strength born of adaptability and community. And so, with hearts and homes strengthened by the night's trial, the village prepared to meet the future, ready to bend with whatever winds may blow, but never to break. As seasons changed and the sun warmed the earth once more, the village gathered beneath the great oak tree to honor those who had endured the storm and embraced the lesson of the bamboo. The air was filled with a sense of celebration, not merely for survival, but for the growth that had blossomed from hardship. Faces once shadowed by fear now shone with quiet pride, and the bonds between neighbors had strengthened like roots entwined beneath the soil. The elder stepped forward, his voice carrying the weight of wisdom and compassion. We have learned much through the storm's trial, he said. Resilience is not stubbornness or a refusal to bend. It is the courage to adapt, the patience to endure, and the humility to change. Like the bamboo, we must bend without breaking if we are to thrive. The villagers listened intently, their hearts stirred by the elder's words. He gestured toward the nearby bamboo grove, where the slender stalks swayed gently in the breeze, their leaves shimmering with the light of morning. These stalks remind us that life's challenges, like storms, are inevitable. They will come without warning, testing our strength and resolve. But how we respond to these trials will determine our survival and our growth. A young man named Taro, who had once doubted the elder's teachings, stepped forward. For a long time, I believed that strength meant standing firm against all odds, no matter the cost. But now I see that true strength lies in flexibility and resilience. We cannot control the storms, but we can control how we face them. The elder nodded, his eyes shining with approval. Exactly, Taro. The bamboo's secret is not in resisting the storm, but in yielding to it, allowing the wind to pass through without breaking. This is the essence of resilience. The villagers shared stories of how embracing this lesson had changed their lives beyond the storm. Some spoke of personal hardships, of challenges at home or in their work, where bending rather than breaking had brought peace and progress. Others spoke of newfound patience, of learning to listen and adapt rather than react with anger or fear. Hannah, the calm woman who had observed the bamboo during the storm, added softly, "When we bend with life's difficulties, we learn to find balance. We grow stronger not by fighting, but by moving with the currents of change." The elder smiled warmly. This is why resilience is a gift we give ourselves and each other. It allows us to face adversity with grace, and to emerge from hardship not defeated, but renewed. The village children who had watched the storm with wide eyes, now played near the bamboo grove, their laughter a melody of hope. The elder looked upon them and said, "Teach these lessons to the next generation. Let them know that storms will come, but with resilience and flexibility, they will stand tall like the bamboo, no matter the winds they face." The villagers nodded, understanding that this lesson was not just for one storm or one season, but for all the storms life would bring. It was a way of living, a mindset rooted in patience, adaptability, and community. As the gathering drew to a close, the elder spoke once more. "Remember, my friends, resilience is not the absence of struggle, but the strength to endure and grow through it. Like the bamboo, we may bend, but we will not break. Through this, we find the power to overcome and to thrive." The villagers dispersed with hearts lifted and spirits renewed, carrying with them the wisdom of the bamboo. In their daily lives, they practiced bending with challenges, supporting one another, and embracing change with courage and grace. And so the village lived on stronger, wiser, and more connected, rooted in the enduring lesson that true resilience comes not from force, but from the gentle strength of bending without breaking.